Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I don't think we'll have a good evening, especially at this time. Right, let's see. ERO. Don't know if ERO is still here or if that was much earlier. Can't see what. Can I see what time this was actually posted? No, I can't, unfortunately. All right. Try and get rid of that so I can actually read stuff. There we go. Okay, so we've got Stormy, hello, and Andrea. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining. I hope this time slot works because I'm going to have to do it at this time to fit everything else in that I'm going to be doing. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. Right, let's see how many people we get today. How's everybody doing? It's been a while, actually. I actually want to switch this thing off. Get rid of that. Kasim and Zankus here. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Yeah, maybe we'll get the whole crowd. Who knows? Be interesting. And Turner. Hello, hello. Cool. Glad this time slot is working out so far. Right, how's everybody doing? What you want to chat about? You know the drill. I've been on a Grace Jones binge lately, so we're going to listen to the Grace Jones radio. It's got some good stuff on it though. I mean, it's brilliant. It's got like Marianne Faithfull, Kate Bush, Massive Attack, Roxy Music, B-52s, Talking Heads. This is good. It's good stuff. Kasim, you have a problem. The gods have gone silent, the magic has dried up, and I don't know what to do. Just go with the flow is usually the case. Don't think that anything's wrong, don't think you've done anything wrong. It's just a dry patch. Everything goes in cycles, everything has to move in its own flow. And we can't keep going at top-notch rate all the time, which is kind of what we're told to do in our society. You know, if you get tired, push through it. No, don't. Just let it happen the way it's supposed to happen. This is going to be a period for you where you just sit back, make some notes, go through your journals, do some divination possibly. It's usually a good idea. Even if you don't get any answers from divination, that's because you just need to sit back, just take everything in. You've progressed to a certain point. Now you just need to hit that plateau and just learn or find out what you've learned. You know, so don't stress about it. Just let it pass, and it will come back. Okay. Just to go with that, actually, have you been kind of questioning your magic, questioning whether it's all a load of rubbish, or have you just been, or is it just this is just the only thing that's happened? Have you been going through some kind of depression? I mean, you could be going through a dark night of the soul, but that is also, you know, apart from nothing happening, nothing working, you start questioning yourself and you think you know everything you've done is just pure imagination and fantasy, and none of it was real. You know, and you go through a form of depression, and it's kind of it's a horrible thing to go to. It rips you to pieces, literally. I mean, this is kind of like the destruction of your ego. It seems to have dried up when I decided not to go into demonology. I felt called to it, yet I stopped. I didn't feel it was right for me yet. Then everything just stopped. Well, that's your decision. That's got nothing to do with the spirits or the gods. If you make that decision, they don't get to decide what you do and don't do. Alright? And if they're not talking to you, it's probably because you may be thinking that they don't want to talk to you because you made a decision which goes against their wanting, their decisions. That's not how this works. They don't get to decide what you do and don't do. Alright? So if you've decided not to go into demonology, that's fine. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Then you pursue which path you feel you want to go to. Whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It's your path, your decisions, your life, and your worldview. You are the only person who decides what happens. Okay? So there could be something psychological where you think because you have decided not to do this, they're punishing you for some reason. That's not the case. And if they are, they're not the gods. They're parasitic entities that need to be banished anyway. So don't stress about any of that. Just find out where you want to go next, and then start taking those steps. So it's about finding your footing, finding your grounding, and just continuing on. Don't stress about it. I have a button here with a 1 over the top of it. What does that mean? Oh, start Q&A, start a poll. Why would we want to do that? Members only live stream. No. Yeah, no. Get rid of that. That's not what we are doing here. Alright, while we're waiting for other people to join, hopefully they will. Let's see, what can we chat about? Unless you've got any questions, throw them in there and we'll have a look. What is going on with this graph? Bloody hell, gone up and down, up and down. Yeah, I've started doing this at this time slot now because, as I said previously, I'm going to be doing other things afterwards. So I'm still putting everything everything's really together, but I'm still kind of getting to the point where I kind of announce it, which will be towards the end of this month, and then I will start the first masterclass in September. So there's going to be, for 2 Sundays of the month, I'm going to be doing a live masterclass. Then for one of the weeks I'm going to be doing a workshop, and then the last Sunday of the month I'm going to be doing the Patreon book club. So that's why I thought do this now and do it every week, and then I can do all that other stuff afterwards. Okay. Everybody's hopefully happy with that. Can I take anxiety and thoughts into my solar plexus and turn it into usable energy for motivation? You could do, but when you say taking it into your solar plexus, is this from inside, from yourself, or is it from outside, from other people? Because I'm assuming what you're talking about here is that you feel that anxiety in your solar plexus, because you're often doing that kind of area over here. So if you're feeling it there, if you actually physically, you're getting a physical sensation, then yes. Yeah, from yourself, okay. So yeah, take that and you can move it around. You know how to move energy. So you kind of see it as a ball, and you can move it around your body, you can move it to wherever you want. You can move it out your hands, or through your arms, out of your hands, your palms or your fingertips, and project it at something, and do whatever you need to do with it. You can transmute it into something completely different, use it for whatever purpose, eat it, whatever it is. but make sure you transmute it properly before you take it back in, because that could be a bit of a disaster if you don't. Flavie Mordka, hello. Did we miss you? I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. By the way, all of your book suggestions I have taken into consideration, and I'm doing the Patreon book club from the list, and then after that's been done each month, I'll do a review the following month. So it's going to be a couple months, well, 2 or 3 months before you start seeing those pop up on the reviews, but that's what I'm doing. Because there were some great books in that list, that suggestion you gave me. Great. This month we are reading Living Spirits by B.J. Swain. Fantastic book, really is. He knows his stuff. And there's some great explanations in there, especially of ancestors. Brilliant explanation of ancestors. And also the Holy Guardian Angel. I just finished a chapter on the Holy Guardian Angel, and his analysis of it from the comparison really of the Abramelin mention of the Holy Guardian Angel compared to the Thelemic mention, and what they both kind of do and stand for, and why we might want to incorporate them into our workings and magic and all of that stuff. And yeah, no, he really knows his stuff. It's fantastic stuff. But I'm not going to talk any more about that because that's for the book club. I wonder where Andrea went. I'm sure she'd like some Marion Faithful. She said, today I bought Badass Ancestors, and of course Ensouling Effigy a few days ago. Badass Ancestors, I haven't heard of that. John Rivers, hello. Thank you very much. Good Sunday to you too. Badass Ancestors. Who's that? Patty Wigington. Never heard of it. Author. You'll have to let us know what it's like. I'd be interested. Let us know. I've got so many books on my list, I don't think I can actually add any more. I mean, apart from the list you gave me, I've got a list which is like 3 times longer, and then another list which is about 10 times longer. Crazy. Woodland Witchery. Hello, thanks for joining. Good to see you. And you. Do you have any knowledge on twin flames and how to deal with the painful twin flame journey? I don't. It's a very, very new age concept that I don't follow at all. In fact, if you actually go back into the history, I believe it comes from quite a Nazi source, actually, to be honest with you. But I don't. It's a new age concept, and just, yeah, I've never gotten into the new age stuff, and it doesn't really make much sense to me, honestly. Sorry about that. John Rivers, I don't care much for it. I'm assuming you're talking about the new age stuff. Turner, what's your favourite ancestor book? Ooh. Considering I haven't read the majority of them yet, I can't even think of one at the moment. Hold on. I know I've read some. Let's have a look if I can make this out. Yeah, when do you start Enochian? Quite a while. I'm still trying to get my bearings there again. I'm having to take a completely different route from what I was originally going to do. So yeah, I can't follow the you know, make the temple and get a gold ring avenue. That's just not going to happen for me. Hang on, unsort the books. Let's see what comes up. Honoring ancestors was pretty good. Let's have a look at this list over here. Hold on. Alright, oh, there's honoring. The honoring you're thinking of is by Mallory, I think it's for but yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. Can't think of the bloody books I've read now. Oh, there's another one, Honouring the Ancestors, a basic guide. That's it here. Yeah, that's the only one I can think of, sorry. I've drawn a blank. If I think of any, I'll let you know. Alright. John Rivers, just romanticizing human relationships. Look, I mean, with the whole twin flame thing and all of that, the new age concepts, it's based in older concepts, obviously. It's just that somebody took it and kind of like shuffled it around and decided to add a few things, add some bells and whistles, put some lights here and put some sparkly stuff there and whatnot. But it's got a basis in some older knowledge. It's just that it's been screwed up and bashed around so much that we don't recognize it anymore. So yeah, it gets a bit difficult. Bavimorka Sabbatica series by Ed Gaval, familiar author for you. Is it worth reaching for? I don't know. I haven't read any of Edgar Gaval's books. He was part of, I don't know if he still is, I know he was part of the Quetting camp. I believe he's stepped out and started his own thing. Good for him if he has. And I think, what's her name, who wrote all the Clipotic stuff, which I'm really not a fan of anyway. Can't remember her name now, but her and Edgar kind of, I know he created his own little publishing house type of thing. But yeah, I just never read any of that stuff. Your other suggestion or query: techniques of high magic, a manual of self-initiation techniques of high magic, a manual of self-initiation by Stephen Skinner. Stephen Skinner is really good. I would suggest reading him. In fact, I need to get back into some Stephen Skinner stuff. You do want to bear in mind the viewpoint he's coming from, though. He is a very much a ceremonial magician, and I remember watching him on Esoterica. There was an interview with him, Dr. Justin Sledge, obviously, so that's Esoterica. I think it was Thorn Mooney. There was three of them. But anyway, regardless, I remember him talking about the creation of a circle in order to work the Goetia. He is extremely technical. He doesn't believe in imagination or visualization at all. His approach is very much technical. It's all about sacred geometry, getting all the angles and the shapes and everything right, so that the energies are flowing the way they're supposed to through the sacred geometry. And he gets the results. He definitely gets the results. But as I say, his approach is very much ceremonial magic. So although he says he doesn't, I don't think he can get away from the whole idea of trapping and binding type of thing. The original Solomonic grimoire approach to things. But he's very skilled. He is extremely skilled. and so it's definitely worth reading his stuff, you know. John, you said based in a need to want to not be alone. There is that, yeah, I suppose. I can see why you would say that, yeah. EO, I tried to create my own New Age practice or path and ended up becoming a Thelemite. Nothing wrong with that. Zanka, Enochians. I thought it wasn't easy or pleasant to work with them. I don't think it is. They are... The Enochian angels are horrible. They are pains in your ass. It's a bit like once you open the channel, they won't leave you alone. There are pests. They are buggers. They're just not very nice entities to work with and speak to and deal with. The reason I'm going the Enochian route is because I keep getting pushed towards the ethers. And although you don't technically need to know all of the Enochian stuff to do this, I'm the kind of person who wants to have the background knowledge, the stuff behind me before I go and do something that is related to that particular thing. My problem before was that, as I said, the approach that I usually take is I will start from the very beginning, and that means replicating what Dee and Kelly were doing, and then going into the Neo-Enochian stuff. But it's just stuff I cannot do physically. I can't do it. So I'm having to find a different avenue. I'm having a look at Lon Milo Duquette's book, Enochian Vision Magic, at the moment. He, apart from it being theory, which most of the Enochian books are just plain theory at the end of the day, he gets very much into the practice of it. And he's been practicing for a good 2-3 decades, as far as I know. And he's run like a class from his home since the 1970s or something. I'm not sure what, or 1990s. I don't know. Long time. Been doing it for a long time. So I'm hoping to get something from that and then see where it takes me. So of course we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. Bengamorka Feng Shui. Yeah, what about it? Feng Shui is excellent practice. It really is. Light Fighter Zenzia. Hello. John, why does Skinner not involve himself in politics? Why do they pest you? I don't know why Skinner doesn't involve himself in politics. I wouldn't have a clue. That would be a personal thing for him, I suppose. But I guess the question is, why should he get himself involved in politics? He doesn't like politics. Why is he going to get involved? How do they pester you? They don't leave you alone. You know when you're trying to sleep, like it's middle of the night and you get this voice shouting in your head saying, "Wake up! I need to give you a message." And they don't leave you alone. That kind of pestering. So yeah. I know at least one person who had to completely and utterly shut everything down because they just wouldn't leave them alone. Alright, oh yes, we shall indeed scry the ethers. Good stuff. Yeah, you're gonna have to do that with me actually. White Fighter stands here. Let's see. I'm not even going to try and say this name. I'm actually going to call you Vrindavan because I like that name. That's a cool name. Isn't that a mythical city or something? I can't remember. Anyway, you have a question. Since I am new to demon summoning, I wanted to know if a person's birth chart makes a difference in this practice. Do demons interact or behave differently? I don't think so. No. Some other people might. I know a lot of people do kind of put a lot of sway on what your birth chart says, But as far as working with spirits in general, I don't think it does. There's possibly a degree here and there that it might actually influence it. What you need to do is find an intermediary. I was actually reading this I was going to say, we're busy reading Living Spirits for the Patreon book club at the moment. And he mentions it in there, and I think it needs to be spoken about more and more and more and more, because people don't have a clue about the intermediary spirits. So, I don't even know if this is old magic. It should be just normal for everybody nowadays and in centuries past. You have an intermediary spirit. This is kind of like a go-between you and the spirits, all right? So you don't go straight to the spirit and say, "Hey, dude, I want to work with you." You find an intermediary spirit that will work with you, and there's a lot of them. There could be crossroads spirits. It could be the devil, crossroads liminal deities. It could even be ancestors. It could be your holy guardian angel, your personal daimon. It could be a fetch. It could be a familiar. There's loads and loads and loads of different spirits that this intermediary spirit could be, right? And you go to the intermediary spirit, and then you ask them to kind of go forward for you and speak to whichever spirits, or bring them to you, pass on a message, all of this stuff, right? So it's kind of this in-between entity, and it makes it easier to work with the spirits, because if you go straight to them, what often happens is sometimes, quite often they'll work with you, that's no problem, but sometimes you'll get this response of, "I don't know who you are, why would I want to work with you?" And why would they want to work with you? Just because you're a human being? I mean, most spirits don't want to work with human beings. So try doing this whole thing where you actually find this intermediary spirit, and then you might come up against spirits that don't want to deal with you, but I don't think it's got anything to do with your birth chart, to be honest with you. But your birth chart can influence this intermediary spirit. This is why I brought this up. If you go into Agrippa's works, he speaks of the natal genius, or the astral genius, I think somebody else called it, but I know it as the natal genius. And the natal genius is the one that teaches you magic, teaches you all about this stuff, and acts as the intermediary spirit. So you can go into your birth chart for that, and then work from there. So that would be my advice anyway. John, I just mean to say, these people with power, why not actually change the world instead of only your world? You have to bear in mind that people who are working ceremonial magic are not doing witchcraft, and that's two very different things. When you're working witchcraft, you're usually working with the land, with the world, with your environment, and that's why witchcraft gets extremely political. But ceremonial magicians are not working in this realm, or not working for this realm at all. They're working for the extension of higher existence, whatever the fuck they want to call it. It's got nothing to do with every day-to-day life at all. In fact, if you're working pure ceremonial magic, you're not doing any kind of magic that would influence your income or your family or yourself. This is purely about connecting with higher spirits, with connecting with higher realms, if you want to call it. I hate those higher-ness, hierarchy kind of talk. But I think you get the point. So a person who's working pure ceremonial magic wouldn't be involved in politics at all, from the magical perspective, because it's got nothing to do with the world and our daily lives. Nothing at all. Right, hope that answers that. Bowman Feng Shui in the context of Skinner and his magic engineering. Okay, I've lost you there. Oh, you mean the flow of energy through a space. Got you. Kind of. I mean, this really is about sacred geometry, and you know, things like, I'll give you an example. So if you take the name of a name of power, a god name, for instance, from Kabbalah, and you take the Hebrew letters for that god name, all right, that alone has power. Looking at that name alone, just looking at the name actually starts to alter your own psyche. And you've done nothing with it yet. All you've done is look at it. You haven't even read it. You haven't said it out loud. You've done nothing with it but look at it. That starts to change your psyche, okay? So when you start working with these names of power properly, you can do incredible, amazing, powerful, wow things, okay? You're not going to see spots and things like Harry Potter, but potent stuff. Because the Hebrew letters hold power themselves. When you then put that into, or create a name from it, that name comes alive. It becomes a spirit. It becomes a living thing. And if you work with these things properly, you can do some potent shit. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about with Skinner. So yes, it is about flow of energy, but it's also about flow of power, of bringing things to life. And there's just a whole load of levels there that you know, go on talking about for centuries. Right, John, I think your birth chart will just indicate you are more receptive to them. Nothing causal between the two. Yeah, there is that, yeah. I mean, it will tell you if, you know, you are a magical person or you're not, and it will tell you what particular areas of magic you are probably more prone to succeeding at, and all of that stuff. So some people, it might be working with spirits, other people it might be working with planetary energy, so that type of stuff, yes. But the problem is, I think a lot of people think that their birth chart's going to tell them which spirits they can and cannot work with. And that's kind of wrong. A lot of people kind of take the idea that I have more fire in my chart, therefore I'm going to work with fiery spirits. Well, I don't kind of agree with. A lot of people do. I don't see why it would actually bear anything towards it. Alright, Bavimork recently listened to an interview with a Taoist master. He said that if our karma does not provide for extrasensory perception, because we do not have the energy, then we will not see spirits, etc. Okay, I can kind of understand that thinking. Because it's one of the reasons why a lot of Eastern practices will work with removing your karma, because you start to lighten yourself, and therefore you can then, it's kind of like having layers of concrete or plastic or something over you. So you keep chipping away and getting rid of layer after layer after layer, and the more layers you get rid of, the more sensory you become, and the more you are able to perceive and things like that. Yeah, I can kind of understand that. If we actually take that concept into Toltec Warrior Path with Carlos Castaneda, I think I said that right this time. He speaks about the accumulation of power, and you do this by things like recapitulation, where you kind of like strip away the connections that you've made with people and places. You give them back their energy, you take back your power, and you like keep stripping away and pulling back more power from people, so it's not connecting to them all the time. And there's a whole lot of other ways you can do it. You can do tensegrity, you can go do it through dreaming, you can all these different practices where you gain your power, and the more power you get, the more extrasensory perception you gain, kind of thing. So it's about that stripping away. It's about the gaining of power by removing what shouldn't be there, kind of thing. Oh, there we go. John sounds about right. I won't ever see. You got too much karma. Very true. I've had goetic spirits say yes to me, just so I'll leave them alone. I can actually believe it. Right, like fighters in. My practice is now morphing intoxicated, more astral travel. Cool. I'm learning how to go to the Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Saturn, and learn from these bodies of energies. It's a lot though, and I have to be slow. I'll go very slowly with that, because there's a whole shift in your worldview as well. That's going to break some barriers there that you're going to have to kind of get over. So you definitely take it slowly, but great, sounds great, fantastic. Bavimorka, today I discovered a new forest, a nature reserve, a lot of intersections, crossroads and forks. I even climbed to the top of a mountain where I found an old stone circle. Very nice. I'm very jealous, actually. I have to go back there and do some magic. Yes, you do indeed. And keep going back there and keep doing magic. Or just sit down and just get in contact with the spirits there. That would be amazing. John, the original occult insults. Never mind. Babu Morka. Oh, Alistair's here and Dragon's here. Hello, thanks for joining. Babu Morka, that's why I prefer witchcraft, ceremonial magic. It's over-intellectualized and detached from everyday life. I agree with you, totally, I do. I mean, I understand its reasoning, and I understand why people follow that path and that route, but I prefer witchcraft myself because it brings all of these things together. It brings our physical world with the magical world, with the fairy world, with all of the underworlds and other worlds, and they're all together and they don't separate them, whereas ceremonial magic tends to go in this direction where you're supposed to remove yourself from the mundane. The further you can get away from the mundane, the more enlightened and the more elevated you become with all that stuff. So, not my cup of tea. Although, I do incorporate some ceremonial magic into my practice. John, in what is that mechanical grounded? Why our planet's language? I've lost you. You're going to have to give me a bit more background on what you're talking about there. Yeah, not sure what that was about. Let me know. Light Fighter Zen, in my birth chart, Rahu is in my 8th house, Sagittarius, which address my infinity to the occult. I'm not an astrologer at all in any. It's no good even talking to me about this stuff because I've got no idea. You guys have got more of an idea about that than I do. Alistair, hello. And Dragons, yeah, hello. John, isn't Rahu bad? And Darth by long distance travel. Sorry, that's death by long distance travel. No idea. That is why we must work on developing chi energy. Some have to, some don't. I don't like karma. Not even good karma, says John. Why does Hebrew incidentally have power out of anything in this universe? It's not just Hebrew. You go into Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the same thing. I mean, if you consider that Om is considered to be the sound that created the universe, created the cosmos. It's a sound. It's a vibration, and from those sounds came figures, visual things that we could give representation to, and those figures hold that power. If you think of runes, runes are the building blocks of the cosmos. They are the cosmos. You know, they're not just letters, which some people think they are. They're not just a writing system. The runes hold the power of the cosmos. And if you use them wrong, you can completely and utterly screw everything up. Not just yourself, but your environment. These are powerful things. Well, no, unfortunately, not a lot of people know how to use them properly. So, you know, kind of like haven't blown up the world yet type of thing. But yeah, it's not just Hebrew. It's a lot of the older glyphic. My linguistic knowledge is quite limited. Same with, it's not as bad as astrology, but yeah. But those older languages, if you go through the Hebrew otiot, the alphabet, the letters, each one has a particular force tied to it, an intelligence, spiritual intelligence, which is the letter itself. You know, and there's stories, mythologies about how the letters were formed, when they were created, and the way it's written and said and spoken is that each letter is an intelligence. It's not just a figure that we use to write with or sound things out. It is an intelligence. And I think that's the kind of leap we need to make with these things. When we look at a Hebrew letter, it's not just a shape. It is an intelligence. It's a being. It's a living thing. It's like us. We are, you can consider us to be a letter, all right? And then we are these forces and intelligences. You then take that into these ancient powers that are the letters, the Hebrew letters and the Sanskrit letters and the runes, which are, you know, the building blocks of the cosmos, all of this stuff. So yeah, it's got to understand the power behind these things. It's quite immense. Flavor Walker said, good karma. In my language, karma means food. Oh, okay. This is what I like. Yeah, you don't want bad karma then, because bad karma tastes horrible. Alistair, does anyone practice semen retention? I don't. I've tried it once, and it's too painful for me. I just can't do it. Physically, I'm not. No, can't do it. Not able. I know a lot of people do. It does come from Eastern practices. The idea is to actually circulate that energy through your body. You know, so instead of ejaculating, you take that force and that power and you start moving it through the body. And you can use it for a variety of different things. But not something I'm able to actually practice. Mordka, I read that Kabbalah comes from Gnosis, which grew out of Vedanta. There's a lot of things about where Kabbalah came from, and they're really not very true. I don't know about it coming from... I'm assuming that's Indian practices. Vedanta, is it India? I don't know, Hindu. Vedanta. I'm just getting companies. Conclusion of the Vedas. Yeah, so Hindu practices. Can't see it coming out of Indian practices. I can see it coming out of Middle Eastern. That's where it was located. You know, Egyptian influences and things like that. But not Vedantic. No, I can't see that. Don't know. There could be some truth to it, but I don't know about it, and it just doesn't make much sense to me. John, does it have power because we believe it does, or because it actually does? Because it actually does. You don't need to believe in this at all. This is why I say, if you look at Skinner's stuff, from what I understand, from what I've heard him say, is that you don't need belief, you don't need imagination or visualization. You have something in front of you. You draw a letter, it becomes a living body, a living entity, and you don't need to do anything except draw it to make that thing come alive. It's just the power that it holds. You don't need to believe it. It just is. So yeah, Leavenworker said, faith is also a type of energy. Information is the fifth state of matter. Yeah, but even that, you don't need to have faith in what it is. It just is. Do you believe that I exist? Or do I just exist? You know, it's that kind of thing. John also said, oh, hang on. Would you say runes and alphabets have been constructed over centuries in an empirical way, noting vibrational strengths, etc.? This is going a bit into linguistics, which is definitely not my field, so I'm not sure I can answer this properly. But they have been constructed and developed, one from the other to the other to the other kind of thing. And everything does hold vibration. I mean, sure, it's not been proven in quantum physics, but string theory, you know, if you get to the smallest bit within an atom, inside that is a vibrating string. So if we consider that to be the source of all things, and there's multiple millions, billions, trillions, gagillions of these vibrating strings throughout one atom, probably. I don't know. But everything's vibrating at a frequency. When we talk, we are vibrating. We're vibrating the waves around us. You can use sound to break something, to destroy it, or to build it up. If you look at sound therapy or sound healing, if there is a single cell which has a disease, it starts to affect all these cells around it, right? If you then start to add a sound which brings that cell back into normal existence, into balance, into the state it's supposed to be in, then it again starts to affect all of the cells around it, and everything gets healed. And that's just through sound, through vibration. So all language is about vibrational states, about changing frequencies, about bringing yourself into resonance with other things. Because if you make a sound which resonates at the same, or is at the same vibrational frequency as another sound, you start to resonate, and you start to get a wave. So yeah, I mean, and all of that when we talk, because we have language because we have the written word, and all of that stuff. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah. As I said, I'm not a linguist, not an astrologer. I like the stuff. You know, I would say the same for Egyptian. Oh yes, Egyptian and Greek as well. Also, yeah. I mean, Greek's got its own gematria. Egyptian is a glyphic. There's a word for them. I can't think of what the word is. I don't know. There are lots of words that I cannot remember. I wonder what power the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet have. Oh, lots. It's very similar to what we're talking about with Hebrew. Sanskrit letters hold a power, a being. They are entities that within themselves again. So, you know. John, so they reinvented it every time until it was the right glyph, or yelled at it harder to charge it? No, it was. I don't know how they originally formed. If you believe the stories that were given to us. Example. I don't know if this is a good example or not, but it's what's coming to mind. Think of Reiki. There were lots of different Reiki schools and different forms of Reikis and Reiki teachers that kind of got all different influences and everything else. But if you think of the Reiki that we know in the West, that comes from Usui, he sat on a mountain and he received symbols. Those symbols he then took and used in healing techniques. Those symbols are living things, they are entities, just the way Hebrew letters or Sanskrit letters or hieroglyphics or Greek letters are symbols that came to somebody. You know what I mean? So possibly this is the same sort of thing from just a more modern context with Reiki, is that somebody received symbols and or they saw entities which were those symbols, and that's why they became they started drawing them to remember what these entities look like. It's quite possible that's it. And if you look at the shape of the Hebrew letters, there's a whole lot of the shin is 3 yods, which are 3 flames, and there's all this stuff that goes into it. It's quite just studying the Hebrew letters is a whole fucking lifetime study, if you ask me. Luke's, hello, haven't seen you in a while. Her question, what's your thoughts about Kakia? I haven't heard of Kakia. Goddess of Sins. I have no idea. Greek goddess of vice and moral badness. First time I'm hearing about this one. It's new to me. I have no opinion, sorry. No thoughts because I don't know. Alright. John at Baby Mordka, the power we give it, it seems like through faith and intention, hence chaos magic. But chaos magic doesn't rely on faith and intention or belief at all. It takes on belief, but the worldview of chaos magic is that there is no belief. So, Dragon, how important is imagination when it comes to magic? I think it's extremely important. We talk about visualization as being very important, but visualization comes in a variety of different forms, not just images. It can be visualization comes in the form of all the different senses, and that's what imagination becomes. We start creating things that we want to bring into existence, and we have to have imagination to do that. And once you imagine something, you can then visualize it, and then you can start to bring it into existence because you create it on the astral, which then bleeds through to the physical. So yeah, very important. Einstein thought it was important as well. So he was a good magician. Oh no, Babi Morka, don't do the imagination magi thing. No, don't do that. One of the worst comparisons I've ever seen. Imagination is magic because it holds the word magi. No, it doesn't. Babi Morka, yes, I believe in Lee. Do you, honestly? I recently met him at a shopping mall in Poland, doppelganger. I could have been bilocating. So, did you go and say hello, or did you not go and say hello? Baby Morka, we live in one world and we have many languages. Why? How does this relate to the power associated with the letters and words? Each of us lives in a different world, but together we create one. Well, we do, but we also try to separate ourselves, and that's the big problem, is that everybody believes they are individuals and they are their own powers and they are not connected to anything else or anybody else, and they separate themselves. They separate themselves from divinity, they separate themselves, and when I say divinity I mean all things. They separate themselves from people, from plants, from rocks, from the elements, from everything. They try to separate themselves further and further and further. It's not the point of any of this. It's supposed to go the opposite direction. So yeah, we have many different languages because we've been constantly trying to separate ourselves from everything else. You know? John, reckon by virtue that they simply are living entities. Yep, they are. I mean, one of the main practices within Kabbalah is that when you create a talisman, you write names of power on the talisman or the amulet or whatever it is, and by doing that, it just comes to life. You know, you don't need to stand there and go oh, and like push all this power into it. You just write the name on a piece of paper, and it becomes a living entity. You know, when that paper fades, when the letters fade from the paper, the entity is dying, and then you take it and you give it a proper ceremony to end its life. So, you know, we kind of like think, oh, it's just letters. No, these aren't just letters, they are living beings. And when you write them on a piece of paper, that becomes a living being. You know? Bavimor Kuyusui sigils. Yeah, those are the symbols, the Reiki symbols. You know, like Chokurei and all of those. Everything is nothing, true is false, on is up, etc. Yes. Up is down, left is right, inside is outside. Stormy. My black pit bull follows my every move when I go to my altar. He has to get onto my lap. Would he be in the way or helping me? I don't know, you'll have to decide that for yourself, but you can take him in with you and kind of, you know, talk to him, tell him I need to do this. You can sit there, you can watch, you can get involved, you know, let him get involved if he wants to get involved, and also I think especially with dogs, listen to them. You know, if he all of a sudden gets a bit defensive, if he starts barking at something, if he's trying to get between you and something else, pay attention, because that's a good indication that there's something there that should not be there. So yeah, definitely listen to the dogs. The problem is, you know, if you are trying to walk around in a circle and do what you do, and he keeps getting in the way and tripping you over, then he's going to get in the way. Then you need to just, you know, ask him to sit over there while you do your thing. He can watch, he doesn't need to leave, you know, but get him involved in that way. John, but you'd assume all sigils, runes and glyphs have been peer-reviewed and not just taken as a matter of fact. Well, language is sacred. Old languages are sacred. They were only used by, you know, Hebrew was only used by rabbis. The written language was never given to the public until much later, and then it became different, actually. I mean, originally it was Aramaic as well. But the Hebrew that the rabbis use is different to the Hebrew that the public uses. So you might find that there is a slight difference there as well. But you know, and you go older, you go back before the symbols that we recognize as being Hebrew into Paleo-Hebrew and all the different Semitic alphabets and glyphs and stuff. So there's a whole evolution of the languages. It's interesting. As I said, I'm not a linguist, not really something I go into. I'm more an energy and spirit kind of person, so that's where my focus goes. So I work with these particular glyphs, symbols, letters, and all of that stuff, the alphabets, from an energetic and spirit perspective, but don't ask me to talk about the origins of them and the linguistics behind it. It's way above my head, above my pay grade. Luke's, it's okay. Somehow I found her during research and started to connect with her. Seems interesting. Yeah. You know, the thing about all these different deities from all these different cultures, there's so many of them. And then all of a sudden, when he comes along and says, "Oh, do you know this one?" And I haven't got a clue. Not one I've come across, not one I've heard of in my whole 30 odd years of practicing. Just not have it. I've lost my spot. Hold on. Oh, John. Well, now I'm just depressed. Why are you all depressed? Don't get depressed. All the burial ceremonies. God, that's a very loud bike. All the burial ceremonies I've neglected to perform. Yeah. I mean, you even get talking about that. Not just you know, if you've got like a cameo or something that the letters are faded on. If if a Hebrew book is starting to fade, they've actually got specific. I can't remember the name of it now. They've actually got specific boxes, like book coffins, that they get put in for the more sacred texts. Obviously, I mean, it's not like, you know, they're going to put Harry Potter in there or something like that. Hebrew book coffin. Let's see if I can get the name for you. It's definitely not it. I don't know. Can't find the name. Let's try this. Oh wait, I treated blah blah blah. Oh, it's called a geniza. So you actually take, like, if it's the Torah, for instance, you would actually, once it starts to fade, you put it in a geniza. So yeah, oh, you gotta opens a whole new world, doesn't it? Stormy said it's my Hecate altar only. Oh well, you know, dogs are going to be very welcome at your Hecate altar. You'll probably find that Hecate will actually appreciate it and like it as well. Luke, it's normal. We can always find out about something new. I'm glad that I caused a smile on your face. Yeah, I do as well. Thank you very much. Yeah. EO, the place in my dreams I've had my whole life, found out finally where it is. We thought it was Mount Kaf. Oh yeah, I remember this. It's the city of the pyramids. Oh, okay. Interesting. Alright. Cool. John said like a Dybbuk box. No. Well, no. Dybbuk box is more of a kind of a prison to hold a spirit. Well, from what I remember. So look, if there's a different interpretation. Yeah, because the Dybbuk is a malicious entity. So you put it in the box to hold it. So, yeah. It's a box. I mean, that's really the only similarity there, both boxes. Castle, hello, thanks for joining. John, I never understood the purpose of making a chest that may not be opened. The word prison makes sense. Yeah, because it's to hold something you don't want to let out. It's, you know, just to keep it there so that it doesn't, you know, harm everybody else and everything else. Von Winkler books. Well, it's difficult to get his books now, though. Except Magic of the Ordinary I've got. Okay. Let's see. Yes, he did. 1981, though, it's probably out of print. An astonishing book chronicling the chronicling and dramatizing 6 documented reports of possession and exorcism in the Jewish experience. Gershon Winter is brilliant. I actually want to try and get that book. But, hold on, I'm just on a mission quickly. Oh. Ooh. The book is now available on Internet Archive. If anybody wants to go read it. I'm not signed in. Log in. I need to put that in my favourites. Right, while I'm doing that. Or just vanquish it. Yeah, but can you vanquish it? This is you know, a particular belief from particular traditions that you can't actually get rid of these spirits. You can't make it dissolve, because what we're talking about there when we say vanquish it or banish it or whatever, we often think that we do this and the spirit kind of just like dissolves. Why? Why would it just dissolve? You know, if you push something away, it doesn't disappear, it just goes somewhere else. So this is why in particular traditions you take a dibuk, a malicious entity, an astral parasite, whatever we might want to call it, and you put it in a box and you contain it there. If it's something more like a thought form, that's a different story. You know, that comes from Oz, that's created by Oz, and therefore it can then be transmuted back into something else. But if it's an entity like an astral parasite, that's a different story altogether. That's not a thought form. Just all like overlapping bits and pieces here. Bema Walker, death is following me. I came across the book From Here to Eternity, Traveling the World to Find the Good Death. Caitlin Doherty again. Maybe I should start with necromancy quick. Well, it's worth exploring. Find out where it takes you. There's a lot of avenues in necromancy. You know, starting with ancestors. No, which is ancestors. Modern is a modern inclusion in necromancy. There's a lot of modern inclusions in necromancy. Just bear that in mind. But you know, starting with things like ancestor veneration, and then going into working with the dead, doing graveyard work. You can do work with the hungry dead and things like that. Be very careful with that, obviously. There's a very specific way to do that. Here we go, some of my favourites. So there's a lot of different. There's working with grief. There's actually doing counselling with the dead to help them cross over, all of that stuff. There's mediumship, you know, helping the living with their grief. There's a whole load of stuff that now gets included in necromancy. So, James, as far as my experiences go, it is because the real parchment is skin, and as soon as the quill touches the surface and writes, it is considered a living thing. There is responsibility. I understand that, but you know, we now use paper. Well, they used parchment back in the day because that's the only writing surface they had, whereas we now have paper. And that's the same thing with paper. I suppose we could consider paper to also be a living skin. It comes from wood, just not an animal, goat or whatever. but no, we have just as many positive results, or I was going to say reactions to it, but results, same results if we use paper. I personally, I wouldn't actually say that, but I do understand what you're saying, what you mean. John, send it into a different realm, but it still exists. And if it can be sent into another realm, it says that it can't get thrown back here. Oh, this bastard just sent us a bloody parasite. Let's kick it back over that side. But yeah, I don't know. But as I said, there's just particular editions do it a particular way, and in this particular one, it is put it in a box and trap it, and so don't let it out. But obviously, I mean, you don't. When we're talking about astral parasites and these kind of malicious entities, they come in a lot of different forms, and quite often, mostly, it's just a sticky energy that you kind of take on, and this happens on a daily basis. It's not something that we need to create a box for every single time. You just wash it off. You just clean it off like you do when you get your hands dirty in the mud. You wash your hands off. So you get yourself energetically dirty. You just wash it off. That's what we're dealing with most of the time. But every now and again, quite rare occasions, you get this entity which is just so fucking annoying and powerful and malicious that you've got to do something with it, and we then have a debug box. John, apparently the Rothschild Bank has a debug box on display. Probably. If there's actually a debug in there, I don't know, but yeah, bloody rich people. Stormy question. I was doing regular work in my living room and I kept hearing a bell ring from another room. Thought it may be my daughter's tablet notifications, but it wasn't on. No, bells have a meaning. Oh yes, bells have a huge meaning. It's usually the announcement of a spirit. You find this a lot in older texts usually in regards to angels. They kind of talk about when the angel is going to appear, just before it appears, you either hear a bell or a trumpet. But it usually precedes the appearance of a spirit, and it doesn't need to be angels or anything like that. It can be other entities. So watch, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. Something's definitely happening there. I do often tend to, and it's really annoying, I know it is, and I'm going to be annoying now, but I do often find that, I kind of have these experiences like this. I go search for it, find out what the hell it was, it must be something mundane, and I can't find anything. And then a couple of days later, it happens again, and I see what it was, and it's like, it's just one of those, mundane things that you couldn't find originally, but irritating when that happens, because you think, oh, okay, something cool's going to happen. Anyway, John, does string theory then supersede religious dogma? No. Can a debug's frequency be altered? I have no idea. I mean, as I said, we're not really talking about a sticky, dirty energy. We're talking about quite a powerful entity. And in that case, you probably won't be able to change the frequency. It's not something that can be transmuted. I mean, this is like saying that can you change the frequency or the vibrational frequency of a god? No. Can you change it of yourself? Yeah, sure. Can somebody else change it? Yeah, sure. But it'll usually come back to its normal state after a while. So, yeah, I wouldn't say they can. But, yeah, no. Does string theory supersede religious dogma? No. Oh, actually, I guess it does, because it's all... If it is correct, if string theory actually does become... I don't think it has been proven yet, but if it becomes a proven thing, then it's always been there, It's just that we only discovered it now. Well, came up with the theory. It still needs to be proven. So if it does get proven, then sure, it does supersede religious dogma because it's existed from the beginning of time with the first atom, the first particle within the atom, that sort of thing. The Big Bang. Lowton, hello. Several interesting updates this week. Cool, let us know. Alright, John, if you think of astral parasites and viruses and their understanding of spiritual evolution as CRSPR on a cosmic... What's CRSPR? CRSPR. Clustered, regularly interspaced, short, palindromic repeats. Oh my goodness me. If you're going to get into quantum physics, you're going to go above my head again. I know the basics. Probably the basics of the basics, actually. And then, let me try this again. If you think of astral parasites and viruses as the understanding of spiritual evolution... I've got no idea. No, sorry. Above my pay grade. Gene modification. Are you talking about CRISPR? Oh yeah, that is CRISPR. Okay. Alright, hold on. So, a bit of a different perspective now. If you think of astral parasites, viruses, and the understanding of spiritual evolution as CRISPR, I don't really know. I'm actually not sure. I mean, obviously it's not going to be gene modification. But it could be energetic vibrational changes if everything's vibrating. If this is then we've got to then start asking, in that world, is it the same as this world where everything is vibrating? Does everything in that world vibrate, or is it a different context altogether? I mean, we're talking about fifth dimensional reality. I don't know. It's going to end up being speculation. Something you have to explore. So you also said, given what we know now, surely what has been can be changed. Yeah, from a certain level, from a certain perspective. But as I said, this is now coming back to the atomic level sort of thing, the idea that energy cannot be created or destroyed, it just gets reformed. So when a body dies, the energy, the atoms disperse and they go off to create other bodies. But it's not changed, it's just reformatted into something different. So I'm not sure. I mean, when you get down to that quantum level, in string theory, that vibrating string may not be able to change actually. But if you think of putting a lot of these strings together, they create a tune, and then you add more strings to that, it creates a different tune, that sort of thing. So you can take, just thinking out loud, if you take 3 of these strings and you put them together, it creates a particular sound. If you take a different 2 and you add it to the first one and take the other 2 away, it creates a different sound to the original, right? So therefore we're changing the sound, but the strings are not changing, the strings are staying original. It's just that you're adding different strings to create a different outcome. I don't know if I'm making any sense, even to myself. But I think you might know where I'm going with this. Exactly. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about, which is good because I'm not entirely sure I know what I'm talking about. You'll have to explain it to me one day. But yeah, I think that's kind of where we're going with that whole thing. But hold on, let me get back to Lowton. Oh, hang on. No, wait, there was something before that. EO. The reason I'm asking is because my ego wants to find out if Jack Parsons reincarnated. Oh, okay. Alright. That's going to depend on what the reality is and whether we do reincarnate as pure spirits or whether we do the cosmic soup thing, because Jack Parsons would have gone back into and been split up and gone into multiple different people by now. You know, that energy would have been dispersed. Although I think Jack Parsons would have become a bit more of a purer entity. I think he'd reached that state. He might not have reincarnated at all and become one of the masters, one of the master dead. That's quite a possibility. Ask him. There you go. I keep pushing you towards this. Go ask him. Find out for yourself. Get it from the horse's mouth. Alright. John then said, just seems like a waste remaining the book forever. Well, I don't know. Maybe they like being that. It's their existence, it's what they do, it's their reason for existing. So maybe they enjoy it, maybe they don't. If they don't, maybe they change. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not going to go talk to them either. We'll find out. Lowton, so you did a tarot reading about whether you should make a shrine for the water spirits, and the second card was the Ace of Cups. Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. That got me thinking about getting a water feature, and when I got in the car to go to the garden centre, the first words on the radio was a song's name, which was water feature. The Ace of Cups card looks like a water feature itself. It does. It's like a. I guess it depends on the card you're looking at. It's kind of like a champagne glass, isn't it? Yeah, it's a goblet. There you go, goblet. But yeah, it's got fountains, the 4 fountains for the 4 directions and the 4 rivers and 4 elements, all that stuff. Cool. I think you got your answer. Let's put it that way. Alright, back to John. Imagine if poltergeists could be used to build houses instead. Well, if you get enough teenagers together, you actually create poltergeist activity and actually get them to, you know, go along with this, it might be possible. James wanted to say thanks kindly. Ladder of Lights arrived this week. Another William Gray attainment through magic, evoking the higher self, comes later this week. Cool. That was on my list. Your dog made it sooner. Great book. Ladder of Lights is amazing. I don't know if you've read his Kabbalistic Concepts yet, because I would actually read that before Ladder of Lights, because Kabbalistic Concepts kind of starts you at the beginning, explores the how the tree, the Sephira kind of form, the emanations, goes into the 4 worlds. You know, it gives you kind of background and basics. Gives you a whole load of exercises to do as well, which are absolutely amazing. But then the Ladder of Lights goes into the actual. It kind of takes each Sephiroth and kind of examines it, and from the 4 worlds of that emanations within each Sephiroth. So it gets a bit more involved. Then you've got. Wait, hold on. Then you've got. Let's forget this book's name. Then it's the Talking Tree, which goes into the paths between the Sephiroth, which I haven't read yet. I need to read that one. I've got it on my shelf. I've got so many books on my shelf. Oops, and in my all my various different libraries everywhere. But yeah, I would definitely get hold of Kabbalist Concepts as well. Alright, EO. The reality is it's purely an egotistical delusion or desire to want to find my history or who I was in past lives. Yeah, to a degree, but it's also very useful and handy. It's not something I've ever bothered pursuing. It's never interested me of who I was in previous life, but it doesn't, interest a lot of other people. It can come from an ego-based desire, but at the same time, knowing who you were in past lives kind of gives you a pattern of where you're going now, where you are now. So it can be a very useful thing. So I wouldn't totally dismiss it at all. You know, maybe find out. Bobby Mordka, there is one major flaw in reincarnation. If people reincarnate, how can a spiritist contact the spirits of the dead? Spiritism also has the same problem as the idea of, well, what you'll find is time and space don't really exist. It's a human construct, and we have to live in those frameworks because we have to function. But when you go into the other worlds, into the astral, time, it's all different. You go to the fairy realm, and you spend 7 minutes in the fairy realm. You come back, and all of a sudden it's 7 years later. There's a lot of different stories and myths about this. So, where people have been stolen by the fairies, and they've gone into the fairy realm, and decades have gone past. And it's not just European stories, you also find it in Tibet and China and all of those places they talk about it. So those realms, everything works in a different way. It's not, and time really, as I say, it's a human construct. So if somebody died, it's like talking to your ancestors. Go to your ancestors, and somebody that died 2,000 years ago, who I'm sure has been through the mill a few times, but you can still speak to that person because you're connecting with them on in a different reality, in a different existence than what we kind of consider ourselves to be existing in. And this is the whole thing. We separate ourselves from all of this because we believe that time's real. The ticking of the clock, seconds go by. But even if you get coming back to, as I say, I'm not an expert in quantum physics, but if you start going into quantum physics and theory of relativity even, but if you go into space, time works in different ways, just things zipping past you. All of a sudden it's like, seconds, whereas it's been hours for this person that's going through space type of thing. It's all very wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey, Doctor Who stuff. But yeah, I mean, you can talk to spirits from any timeline, because it all exists in the now, Lowton, yeah, I think I've identified what they want. I'd say yes. Yeah. The other interesting thing is that Baal has identified himself as my mother's spirit guide in one of her meditations. That's interesting. She doesn't know anything about the Canaanite pantheon prior to asking me about it. You might want to also find out she might want to also find out which Baal. Baal means Lord or Master, and there are many, many of them. I do find Baal Hadad tends to pop up a bit more frequently for people nowadays than any of the others. But there's also Beelzebub. There's, Beelzebub was the Lord of the Mountains above, I think it was. But there's lots and lots of them from that whole era. So, yeah, I also want to find out. Ask the Spirit. James, Ladder was his first book, so I presumed. What was that? 1968. Oh yeah, 1968. Does go take you back quite a way. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to read them in that particular order, obviously, but I just find that they do kind of go in that order. If you, start with the basics, understand where all this emanations came from and why the tree forms in this particular fashion and how it progresses through the different Sephirah and all that stuff, and then find out specifically about each Sephirah, because that gives you a whole new layer, and then find out about the parts, because that again gives you a whole new layer. But yeah, you write them in a bit of a different order. It's Ladder of Lights, and then the Talking Tree, and then Kabbalistic Concepts. You kind of, I suppose you pulled it all together. But yeah, so you said, so I presume, well versed in the Dion Fortune vein. Up to now, I am immersed in Papus. Well, okay. We'll grab the others. Cheers. Absolute pleasure. I mean, I don't think you can go as far as Kabbalah and Western mystery tradition goes. I don't think you can go wrong with Gray. His teaching is probably I would say, is one of the best. And I'm going to say it, trumps way above Dion Fortune. Dion Fortune got a lot wrong, actually. So I would stick with Gray. And it is a personal opinion, but it's also an opinion that a lot of other people share. So, you know, maybe just read through the book, see what you feel, do a comparison, and see what comes out of it. Turner, I'm curious why you said that teenagers create poltergeists. When there is poltergeist activity, the first question that is always asked, or should always be asked, is, are there teenagers in the house? Teenagers generate a crap load of psychic energy from going through puberty. They go through immense shifts and changes that create such a huge body of psychic energy. They literally start moving things around. They float off the ground. They do the weirdest things. So the first question is always, is there a teenager in the house? If there isn't a teenager in the house, the next question, as far as I'm concerned anyway, should be, are there any people who are traumatized, who have gone through intense trauma and often still going through it? Is somebody being abused? Because what often happens there is they create a thought form, and because they feel like the victim, that thought form is often created to attack them, especially if they've been removed from that traumatic environment, you know, and while they're still going through the therapeutic stages. They create this thought form. That thought form also holds an immense amount of psychic energy, and that thing can start moving things around. Then you only get to, oh, maybe it's an independent entity. Alright, so it's usually teenager, somebody who's been through trauma, going through trauma, and then you only look at independent entities, but usually it's teenagers. In the majority of the cases, it's teenagers. EO said teenagers create poltergeists because of the chaotic energies, I assume, that can conjure up during their pubescent. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Bevy Mordka, yes, but the fear is dimension meant you were missing from the human dimension, and reincarnation and spiritualism meant you had to be in two places at once. We kind of talk about dimensions because it's the easiest way to explain things, but they're not separated, if that's what you're understanding this as. We don't have a here and a there. We just have a thing, now, a place, a space. We just don't interact with that overlapping space as much as we should be, because this is the curse of the human. We are separating ourselves from that. This is what we do magic. This is why we're here, why we're talking about all this stuff, to get us to that position where we are interacting with that space, where we're seeing it for what it really is, and removing ourselves from this illusion. Um, but you know, reincarnation spiritualism meant you had to be in two places at once. No, it's not two places. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's not two places. Not two separate places. They are in the same space. It's all here. You know. So yeah, don't think about separate places. You know, we go from here to another place. Yes, we kind of view it that way because we move from this realm into another realm. We move around, but it's think of it like a high-rise building. The building is not, the rooms are not separate from the building. The rooms are just places that you go from, you walk between. You know, each room you won't move from this room into the other room, but you're still in the building, and therefore moving between realms are kind of like the rooms. Kind of that's probably a fair example. There was somebody who wrote a book called Many Mansions. I think it was one of those people who kind of went a bit new agey. James Marshall. Oh no, it's a painting.
See Nina, Simone. The concert was over.
Oh, it's the Edgar Case story. Oh, Edgar Case went a bit into the Atlantis route, which was a bit of a sorry affair, because he was great until he went down that route. Anyway. Oh, alright, I've got to get through a lot here. Hold on. Okay, John, do you believe in changelings? I believe that changelings are autistic children. I believe that when the idea of changelings came about, that your child was stolen because all of a sudden they were different, was because they didn't know what autism was back then. But you know, that's a belief. It's one belief about changelings. It's the one I kind of ascribe to. So, do I believe that fairies come along and replace your children? No, it's just an autistic child. Lotion, that's what I said as well. Oh, okay, about the bowl thing. She has been trying to find out which one exactly, though. There is an interesting thing that happened to her. She had really bad thyroiditis about 14 years ago, and for a few weeks she had been in constant pain. So I'm just going to read through Loton's stuff and come back to John. But one night she was laying in bed and she felt a large hand on her chest that apparently burnt like fire, so she cried out and it lifted, but then very slowly came back down with less intensity. Okay, at John, she did in one of her following meditations. I'll get onto that in a second, but she heard his name specifically. Carrying on from the previous sentence, in her mind she was giving it signals to increase the heat gradually, and it did. That night I wasn't able to sleep with my blanket on because the whole upstairs of the house was like summer. I remember it hitting me like a wave when I went to bed. The next morning the pain had dulled to just an ache. That's cool. Yeah, that's a good healing spirit, that is. Nice. I'm glad that happened to your mum and to you. That's quite an experience. John, Bavia Mordka meant fairies. What did Bavia Mordka say now? Oh, the fairy dimension. Meant you were missing from the human dimension. Yeah, it's all wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff. As I said, it's, you know, you're talking about dimensions which are overlapping. The fairy dimension is different to the angelic dimension, is different to the deity dimension, but it's all in the same building. You know, and it's difficult to kind of. These are also not our 3-dimensional space, or 4-dimensional space, because we do move through time as well. We just don't have control over time. Time doesn't exist anyway. But this is what I say. It's part of the mysteries, and you have to experience it. It cannot be explained, not in words that the English language can actually get to. Anyway, it's part of the problem. But half the time, if I do find a way to explain it to you, I take the power out of it for you. You know, so when you go and experience it for yourself, it's just experienced it. It wasn't anything amazing. Take all that away from you, and I don't want to do that. But anyway, John, I think we both watched True Blood. That was a good series. I want to watch that again, actually. And read Raymond Feist, yeah. The Magician. I read The Magician. That was brilliant. Loved that book. Read it years ago. Lowton, cut back now, and in her follow-up meditation, she saw a hand with blue electricity energy hovering in its palm. So now I'm wondering if it was Baal who healed her. It could be a familiar that Baal sent. You know? There's a lot of possibilities there. Divination. Go back to your divination. John, sounds like Caroline Miss. Was that the Many Mansions thing? Let's see who wrote this book. Yeah, the problem with Ed Case is he was a brilliant healer, amazing stuff. And then he started going down the Atlantis route, and it just buggered everything up. A lot of these people did. They kind of like went down these routes because they needed more money and they wanted to sell more books. So, you know, they took on the thing that was the big thing of the day, and kind of sold their soul to it. The person who wrote Many Mansions, the Edgar Case story on reincarnation, was Gina Kerminara. I'm going to put that in the chat because I don't know how to pronounce it, just in case you are interested. I'll just put the link to the book. Hold on. Why am I? Oh, yeah, get link. Yeah, put the link to the book in the chat so you can go see it if you want to read it. Alright, John, can a changeling not know it's a changeling? But that's assuming that, I don't know if you wrote this before your other comments, so I don't know if you heard my response to it before then, so I'm going to say, this depends if a changeling is a fairy or a human being. There you go. Baby Morka, when I spoke about 2 dimensions, I meant that an incarnated person, because he incarnated, and a spiritualist talks with the spirit of a deceased person who this is going to skip. Who incarnated. That is, he evoked the spirit from a new living being. Oh, I know what you're getting at. Okay, so yeah. So you're saying that a person has a soul, they died, then that soul was put into another body, is currently living, and a spiritist speaks to this dead, disincarnated soul, but it's being reincarnated. So there's several different layers here that you have to consider. Firstly, time. If time's not real, you can talk, it's all happening in the same instance, then, and even saying that refers to time, so it's difficult to try and find the language for this. The person can exist as the reincarnated living person and the deceased person's soul at the same moment. Okay. The other layer you have to consider here is when you die, do you get reincarnated as a pure soul, or is the concept of the cosmic soup more of a reality in this situation? We don't know these things because, you know, it's all... There's no absolute truths either. This is the other layer you've got to add. There's no absolute truths. So, do we get reincarnated as a pure soul, or do we go into the cosmic soup? Yes, to both of them. Depends on worldviews, depends on cosmoses, it depends on so many different things. But if you take the cosmic soup aspect, then when we die, we get mixed up with hundreds and thousands and billions and trillions of different souls from all different things. Humans, cats, animals, birds, fish, rocks, trees, plants, all of these different souls get mixed up. Gods, spirits of all kinds. Hold on. And then when the new person needs to be, or the soul needs to be plonked into the new body, a chunk gets taken out and plonked into the new body. But that's a mixture of different souls. So that original soul that died in that incarnation goes into hundreds and thousands of different other bodies. So you can connect with that particular portion of that soul on a different level. You might find that portion of the soul is in a living body and you are just talking to it, but it still has the memory of being incarnated in a different lifetime. There are so many different levels here, and as I said, there's no absolute truth. I'm just going to turn my mic off for a second because I'm going to cough my head off. Hold on. I need to get rid of this tickle in my throat. I hope this is the one. Okay, hopefully that did that. All right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things we can debate until the cows come home. We'll never get to a resolution. John, these days autism just means heightened awareness and sensitivity. I think there's a bit more to it than that. James, hello James. Hope you're doing well. Castle. There we go. Castle, the Tao speaks about that people get stuck in a yin-yang paradox. When you get connected to Tao Chi, you get connected to the continuum. You've got to realise that first, that's a lot to meditate on later. Yeah. Again, different perspectives, different worldviews, and it's all correct. You know, yes to all of it, because our cosmos is immense. You know, to think that there would be one absolute truth is so limiting. It's kind of scary to actually think like that, I think. John at Lowton specifically means the goetic ball. I'm not sure he does actually, or they do. And we'll get back to Lowton just now. Castle, it also speaks about the different dimensions and the energy you might feel. Yeah, as I said, totally different worldview there again. Get some hot chocolate. I think that should make me throat better. Right, I'm just gonna... Should we change the music up a bit? I haven't heard Donna Summer in a long time. Let's do some David Bowie radio. Let's do that one. Come on, change. There we go. All right, Lowton. I did actually have her do a tarot reading about it. Interestingly, she got Justice, several sword cards, the Seven of Wands and the Lovers. Seven of Wands is all about defending, standing ground. Overall, the spread gave me the impression of guardianship. It is worth noting that she did DNA test once and it came back saying that part of her lineage goes back to Syria. Ugarit was in Syria, so maybe her ancestor was a follower of the deity. Quite possibly. Quite possibly. And if she does have some kind of blood connection, DNA connection with that, then you know, it might be where it's coming from as well. Kasim, I've debated if there is soul splitting. That is, you don't reincarnate from one life to the next, but you live multiple lives. Yeah, that's a bit like the cosmic soup idea. Is that you get mixed up with all of these different souls and you get pulled out, and therefore we kind of have different experiences through different lifetimes, because we're not just ourselves going through this lifetime or lifetime after lifetime or lifetime. We're pulling in different memories, different past lives from all different places, and we become tree and rock and animal and all these different things. And as we continue, as we progress through our spirituality, as we get closer to divinity and less